Well, she said she knew me, but things got in the way, and it's not up to me these days.
Hello and welcome to the Indie Tea Talk podcast. I'm Adam and this is Kitty, your host for a journey into indie music across the north. Tune in as we explore unique melodies, chat with talented artists and create a space that you can discover your favourite music like never before. Also, if you're new to Indie Tea Talk, please show your support by hitting that subscribe button. It's a massive help to us and also the artists that we help to support. Today on Indie Tea Talk, we're thrilled to welcome Makk, a Yorkshire-based singer-songwriter with a knack for creating introspective, cinematic soundscapes. From humble beginnings, learning to play guitar with just 3 strings, to becoming a featured artist on BBC Introducing, Makk's journey has been inspiring. Blending influences from Bon Iver to Billie Martin, and this is the kit. Makk's ethereal and moody sound is both unique and captivating. With his debut EP, Tabula Rasa, marking a fresh start, and his upcoming projects Overlook and Data Collection on the horizon, Makk is positioned to keep pushing the boundaries. Join us as we explore his stories, the creative processes, and what's next for this exciting artist. So please join me in welcoming Makk to the studio.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much. Are you all right?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for the intro.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You've had a bit of a nightmare journey getting in today, haven't you?
Yeah, I think we picked the worst day of the year to travel to the coast.
Yeah.
And I got completely lost, and I shouldn't have gone out drinking last night. But there we are. It was, we got here in the end, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably best to start at the beginning. How did growing up in Surrey with your family influence your love for music?
Oh, well, my dad's a Scouser, for starters. So I just remember long car journeys going back to Liverpool to visit family, and he would always have like the Beatles on and the Nolan sisters, Barry Manilow.
Yeah.
All huge influences on my music, as you've probably heard. But yeah, so that music sort of came a little bit later to me. I never really played. My mother wanted me to play guitar, and I didn't want to do the practice, which is par for the course of me. So yeah, I used to just practice on the Monday, record it on my tape player, and then she'd send me upstairs and I'd just put the cassette player on. And she was, because my mother's Sri Lankan, she can be pretty fierce when she wants to be. She's like this 4'2" titan.
Yeah,
If she found out that I was doing that, she probably would have given me a walloping with a wooden spoon, to be honest with you. But
did she ever find out?
Oh, she's found out in retrospect. Yeah.
But not at the time.
Not at the time. No, she wasn't very impressed. I remember when I quit guitar, because it was like you go through that stage, don't you? Before you realise it's cool and girls like it when you're at college. I remember going to my uncle's house actually, and he had some beautiful old Gibsons, really good guitarist, and she said, he was like, go on, play something. I'd just forgotten everything. And the look that she gave me, honestly, left me quaking in my boots. So, yeah, but it gave me a good grounding. That's the main thing, right?
What was the turning point then when you, from that pretending to learn guitar, do you remember the kind of turning point into when you realised that was something that you wanted to pursue?
Well, I went to college, and I fell in with a group of lads who I thought were really cool, and they all played guitar, and I couldn't play guitar, so I was like, I've got a guitar. And that's when I went up into the loft and found this old classical that I'd had as a kid, but it only had 3 surviving strings, so I tuned them to sound nice together. So, and then just went from there, really. You know, I didn't really know any chords, but it taught me rhythm, which was kind of good. So I got it playing nice. And even to this day, I don't really know chords.
Yeah, me too. I've said that when we did my interview.
Yeah,
people are like, what are you playing there? And I'm like,
I don't know. It's worse. Like where I found it's quite frustrating is with now that I'm playing with a band, like they talk a different language to me. And I'm like, yeah, it's this one. What key's that in? It's that key.
Yeah.
I don't know, so
sounds like this.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, it also, I think that leaves you, creatively speaking, you're not, in your head, I'm not thinking, oh, I have to go down this path because we're doing this. You know, you just go down weird tangents.
And also you don't have the rule book in your head of, oh, well, this chord shouldn't go with this chord, but
no, exactly.
it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
So you took quite a long hiatus from performing.
I did.
During that time, what kind of kept you connected to music?
Well, I always had a guitar. And so I went through the process of having children. And I mean, I wrote songs probably more towards the end of that relationship, if I'm honest with you, but because there wasn't a lot of room to be creative. But I did have like songs like the Going to Bed song, which if I got to the end of playing this particular song, then the kids had to go to bed. And so wherever I was in the house, I'd start playing the Going to Bed song, and they'd be like, and they'd all come piling in and like try and stop me from playing it. So it was
that's
always
brilliant. I love that.
Yeah,
That's great.
I still do it now, and they, like my daughter's 25 and Arthur's 19, and they still come running to try and stop me to play it. So it was always there, and music's always been a part of that. You know, I was always trying to influence certainly Arthur's musical tastes. Because his mother's musical tastes were horrendous. So I was like, no, this is what's good. But he's pretty musical as well now. So clearly it played off. And he's got good taste in music. Really into Pavement and things like that. Which is,
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Moving to Yorkshire seemed to be quite a pivotal moment. How did your wife and producer Jacob Clark play a role in bringing you back into music?
So when I met Liz... so I should say, once I'd moved up to Yorkshire and I was on my own again, I was starting to write songs again, obviously, because, you know, I'd been through something, so I had to get it out of me.
You had that reason to.
And I had a lot more time on my hands as well. So I was, I'd written a load of songs, didn't really play them to anybody. And then I met Liz, and she was like, I wouldn't sit in the same room and sing her a song, so she'd have to sit in the living room, then I'd go in the kitchen and play the songs because I was extremely self-conscious about it. But she was like, "No, you're really good. You should be out there playing." I was like, "No, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm too old. You know, it's past." But then she got in touch with Jacob at Evoke Studios,
right.
Which was kind of fortuitous because there was a few at the time. There was like, I think it was 5 or 6 of them that were running the studios, and luckily Jacob was the guy who responded and said, "Oh yeah, come and do a session." And then she told me about it. "Oh, you're booked in to do this session." I was like, not very happy about it, if I'm honest with you. But I went, and we sort of clicked, and I had a lot of old songs that I'd written ages ago, and the project was called Featherhead, which is what my mum used to call me when I was a kid because I'd forget everything. So we recorded all those, which was kind of cathartic, got them sort of out and about. Some of them I've never even released, if I'm honest with you, but the process of... No, we've got a whole... I've got probably another 9 songs that I've never actually put on any platform, which I should get around to releasing them at some point. But
it's always the way.
Yeah. And also I feel like musically I've moved on a little bit from
I was
them
just
as
about
well.
to say that, like, they're probably not something that you do now.
No.
So maybe... But I suppose what is interesting is taking those songs back to the studio. Or back to the drawing board and saying, right, where have I evolved from? And you know, what will these songs turn into? And
it is quite interesting listening, because just recently I got, you know, my website up and running, and I went through everything, and it was quite interesting just seeing the journey, because even Jacob at the time, he hadn't done a lot of production. So we've been working together now for, you know, a couple of years now. I think, is it 2 or 3 years? And it's really, I can see the development from there to, you know, what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to, because I'm in a creative moment at the moment doing the Data Collection album. Overlook's pretty much finished now, the next EP.
Yeah.
And Tabula Rasa was like, something changed there when we did Tabula Rasa. It clicked. We approached it slightly differently, because I took a week off in January, and we're like, right, let's get together in January. We'll just spend the entire week just working on the songs and recording it. And
freezing.
Yeah, freezing. And it went really well. And we just went, because we had that sort of concentrated amount of time together, we were more relaxed, and it took us down different paths. And that process really honed the sound for the next EP, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably quite a big part of it as well, that the more comfortable you get with someone,
Definitely
then
for me.
the more confident you are, and
Yeah.
in a kind of studio space you can get the red light fever kind of thing.
Yeah,
But once you get comfortable with a producer, it is really nice to then
definitely.
also kind of write and be inspired as you go.
Yeah, definitely. And the songs, like, they always start off as like these guitar-y songs, and
Yeah.
I think Rhyme or Reason was like, it was nothing like it is on the EP when I took it to Jacob, and he was like, because he hears different things and takes certain things away. I have a real tendency to over lyricize, so I'll come in and goes, yeah, it's got like 10 verses. He's like, no, it hasn't. So I'm gonna take it down. I mean, we were recording the other week, and one of the songs was quite, because I get them to a certain point before I take them to him, but it was in its infancy, and we recorded it, which was out of character for us, but the track ended up being like 8.5 minutes long, and I'm like, yeah, even I'm pretty bored by about 5.5 minutes here. Let's say it needs stripping back. So yeah, but it is a really great thing to do with Jacob, especially because he has a different ear to me, and I think that's the benefit of not recording things myself at home. You know? When you get in the studio and you start bouncing ideas off each other, and also he's got loads of weird instruments that you can just be like, oh, what about this?
Yeah, that's why it makes a big difference in a studio, isn't it? When you're like, what does this do? And then you're like, hold on.
Yeah, that's kind of like,
I
we've got to
like
use
that.
that.
Yeah. And you've turned like from it's no longer like a professional sort of relationship, it's become more friendship, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, we're mates now, and obviously he plays with me, and we go out and do things together, and I think that's half of it for me as well.
Yeah.
Because we just clicked and became friends, and I credit him on all the songs now, even though I'll go to him with the rough chord structure and melodies and lyrics. He'll add things and little musical nuances. I think when you spend that much time in the studio with somebody, if you don't get on, I can't imagine it must be like horrendous, right? Yeah. And I've never had that before, because a lot of studios, when I'd recorded when I was younger, you go to a studio, they'd stick a mic in front of your guitar and just go, all right, play the song, and then you'd play it, and that was the track.
Yeah.
And if you had a drummer or a bass player, and then you just add those bits. Whereas what I loved about working with Jacob was even on the Featherhead stuff, there's a song of mine called The Veil, and he heard something totally different, stomps and claps.
Right, okay.
Which we did on our knees like that, and I just remember when all of us, even Liz was on that one, we just had massive bruises on our legs after that recording session. So he takes us down different paths. Yeah,
brilliant. So it's time for the infamous tea question.
Yeah.
So if your music were a flavour of tea, what would it be and why?
Well, I went slightly obvious because I'm half Sri Lankan, so it's Ceylon tea, which is supposed to be refreshing. So I guess that's probably, hopefully my music's refreshing. I don't know, but all I remember is as a kid, Ceylon tea was very, very sweet, lots of sugar. I don't think the music's too saccharine, but yeah, hopefully it's refreshing. It's something a little bit different.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's because I'm enjoying a cup of it right now.
Oh, lovely.
But yeah, it's got that sort of dreamy quality to it.
There we go. Yeah,
quite,
I haven't had a
subtle.
sip of mine yet, actually.
It should have a little bit.
How can you be at this part of the question?
Adam can drink like boiling water.
Oh
It
yeah,
just
Liz
comes
says
out
that
of the
about me
kettle.
actually. It should have some floral notes as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely, actually.
I'm getting it. I'm feeling it. I like it.
Yeah.
So it's time for us to jump into your first live performance.
Amazing.
What are you going to be performing for us today?
It's a new song that's going to be on the album called The Chest and the Heave.
Brilliant. Let's dive straight into it.
Great.
Well, I know the reason and I know the fear, and I I stop believing in you. What you wanna feel and what I wanna keep, poured salt on the cotton wound. The darlings you've loved take your words like a drug. It's a smoke screen, it festers, it blooms. And you don't believe in the chest, in the heat, and it falls apart all too soon. But for a time, you were home. For a time, the now and the here never seems to be clear. It made us a prodigal too. While you played the home field, I'd hide how I don't feel. We danced in our harlequin suits, adjusting the makeup, a call to the wake up, a stall just to avoid any truth. And you saw the reason and I saw the fear, and I stopped believing. For a time, you were home. For a
So your music has been described as lo-fi and cinematic, with
Yeah.
influences from artists like Bon Iver. How do you approach crafting those ethereal, dreamlike soundscapes?
It's a strange process because I never really have. I don't sit down and think, oh, I'm going to write this, cinematic sounding song. But I always seem to lean towards that sort of vibe whenever we get into the studio, and I love sort of old stuff. Because we've been using a lot of like 80s keyboards on the new,
Nice, yeah.
or a cassette player, and then running the mics through that and like trying to get interesting sounds. And Jacob has this and I've got into the habit of doing this as well. He has this like library of just weird noises that he's like collated.
All right.
So wherever I am, I'll be like, we were in Amsterdam in April, and if I hear a bell ringing like in the distance, but you can still hear the city, I like to get that sort of on a voice note, and then we try and get it in there. Or the amount of times I've tried to record like a little snippet of a song and it's just like I didn't really position the phone right and it's come out sounding terrible, but then you're like, oh, that little bit sounds quite interesting, and then you try and blend that into the music. I think it's even on Rhyme or Reason, there was something that we'd recorded off radio too, just like this bit of strings that we heard on a cassette player, and then we slowed it down and played it backwards, and then it became like a nice little part of the song, like a transition.
It becomes really playful as well when you record natural sounds, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I just sort of lean towards that, especially nowadays. I'm like, I like things to be quite mellow and chilled out. Like at our gigs, we always sit down, so which people probably think we're lazy, but I just find it a bit more relaxing.
Yeah,
and it brings everybody in a little bit closer. Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't really know where it just came out of nowhere, and everybody always says, "Oh, it's kind of lo-fi and cinematic." I'm like, it just happened that way. I guess. Yeah.
So what about your lyrics? Because they feed into it as well, don't they?
Yeah. So initially when I started writing again, everything was very personal. So they're all about what's something that's happened to me, or after I've had an argument, usually with my daughter, about something. But recently I've been able to sort of, my music writing process has changed ever so slightly. So I put myself into, I can imagine myself being in a certain position. But a lot of the time I don't know how it is for other people, but when I could never sit down and go, oh, you know what, that really moved me, that film or this story that I've heard, I'm going to sit down and write a song about that. I just fiddle about with my guitar, and then I'll be like, oh, that sounds nice, and then it just turns into a song, and then I have no idea where my lyrics come from. They're just like, they pop out. And sometimes if they're really negative about something, Liz is like, oh, is that about me? I'm like, no, it's not about anybody. What's that about?
I'm sorry I burnt the toast this morning. God.
We had that same discussion in my episode.
We did, didn't we?
Like, people come up to me and they're like, dude, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It's just really easy to write sad songs.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
They're really hard to write happy ones.
I just can't. If I'm happy as well, generally, it's a struggle to write a song. Yeah. It's best to sit down when something's really annoyed you, or you've been let down.
We were saying that, weren't we? We're like, we're saying, oh, do you know, life's really good at the moment. God, how am I going to write a song?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a really interesting. Have you watched Midnight Gospel?
I have
on
not.
Netflix?
No.
There's a really interesting episode of that where he's speaking with a comedian, and she's basically saying the same thing of like, oh, well, I worry that if I'm happy, I won't be successful, because the way I create my comedy is through, all the really awful parts of my life. It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. They're the most inspiring bits, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, speaking of awful parts of your life, no, I'm only kidding. Your performance for BBC introducing and getting praise from Jericho Keys must have been a huge moment after your hiatus and coming back.
It was really weird. I remember when I got the email when and they asked me to come on. It was almost like a bit of confirmation for me that, oh, maybe it's not rubbish. Yeah. Because I'm always, I guess most artists are like this, but I'm riddled with self-doubt. I'm always like, and I'll go and see like other artists performing around Leeds. I'm like, oh, they're so good. Why can't I write songs like that?
Yeah.
My songs are just like, whatever they are.
I consistently have the, I wish I wrote that.
Yeah. So yeah, it was nice to get a bit of confirmation, and it was a really great experience going in there. Yeah. And it gave me a huge confidence boost as well. I sort of believed in myself a little bit more. And Jericho's great, right?
He's brilliant. He makes you feel so relaxed, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's super supportive as well. He's been to a couple of gigs, and he helped bring me out my shell a little bit more as well.
Yeah. Do you think that it opened up any more opportunities for you?
I think it's always good to be able to say, oh yeah, I've been on BBC Introducing, and people, it legitimizes you a little bit. People are like, oh, so you are a musician. Otherwise, you could be one of those guys just singing Wonderwall in the corner of a bar every weekend, right? And which I've no disrespect for that at all. It's
there's
the way
there's a place for it, isn't there? You know what I mean?
There is, and that's probably where you can earn the most money as a musician.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do struggle with that, trying to find places where people really do want to listen to new music as well. It's I think we're lucky in Leeds, which is the closest city to me. There's plenty of places, but I don't know. Once you start performing, you start realizing, it's actually quite small. You know, there's only a few places that you can get to, and obviously there's some great venues, but you have to get to a certain level before you can perform at those. So
it's like the old paradox, isn't it? You know, you need experience, but no one will give you a job.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But I guess, you know, I try not to get too caught up in all of that, because I think, especially with Spotify, and it's all stat driven, right? And you like, especially with rap that's just come out, you know, you're looking at it and you're like, oh, my stats suck compared to something.
My stats suck.
You know, and it shouldn't be about stats, right? And how many followers you've got on Instagram and all that malarkey. So
you've got to enjoy it. Like,
exactly.
You know, we absolutely love doing this.
Yeah.
And it just gives us so much pleasure. And sometimes, like, we'll put a video out or we'll put a reel out and it'll do really good.
Yeah.
Sometimes it won't. But do you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've loved it.
And
sometimes it's been stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But the overarching thing is that it's just so much bloody good fun to meet people like yourself.
Yeah.
And like-minded people that are just love music and have a proper passion for it.
Yeah, and actually, do you know what? That has been probably the best thing about it, because I mean, I moved here from like down south. When I moved to Harrogate, I knew nobody, and then I met Liz, and then going to the studio has just opened this door. I know loads of people now, you know.
Music is a really lovely way to meet people
just
as well.
Builds like a community.
Yeah, and you know, when I did the EP launch for Tabula Rasa at High Pop Book Club, and I just basically,
I love it there.
I mean, the sound's great there as well, right? And I just sent all these these messages to all these musicians that I'd met saying, please come. A good proportion of them didn't come, but you know what? Loads of them, the place was full, and there's some people there, like Marnie Glum was there, and Harry Orm came, and I was super humbled by that, because again, it just makes you realise, or hopefully, that you're not just wasting your time, and people do actually listening to the stuff that that you're making. So
absolutely.
I mean, the sense of community that it's given me, and that you know all these different people now, that I think that's probably the best thing that's come out of it. And I'm not going to measure the success of anything from the stats or even how many streams I get on Spotify. You know, if I can go out and do a good show and people listen to it, and a couple of people come up to you afterwards and go, "Oh, do you know what? That was really nice. Your lyrics. Somebody cried at my gig the other day." Yeah. It's like, not that I want to make everybody cry.
Did I make you cry?
Then that's like, it makes it worthwhile. I did a lovely gig at the 17 Mile Bar actually in Harrogate, which is somewhere I don't play very often, but you know, there was about 30 people there. Everybody was quiet and we listened, and it was really cozy. We had candles. Probably my second favourite gig of the year so far. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
nice.
Really, really nice.
Yeah, it's nice when you have those moments and you personally connect with people.
Yeah.
Like we put a live event on at Wartop Brewery the other month.
Wow.
And it was so intimate and it was so beautiful, and so many people come up to us afterwards and were like, that's just one of the best like gigs I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Because they got to, obviously, you know, we did the interview and they got to know Dan from Boss Kane on a completely different level to what they'd ever done before.
Yeah.
And, you know, we walked away and I'm like, oh, that's really validated it. You know, it's really validated it, because it might just be that one person, but that one person truly
it's made a difference.
And connected to it. And it's like, that's what we're here to do.
It only takes one person, man.
That's it.
So your next EP,
yes,
Overlook, is inspired by Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Yeah.
Is it going to be terrifying? What can listeners expect from this project?
I mean, I've gone through and it's continued actually. I hadn't really read any Stephen King or anything like that. And I'd never really properly watched The Shining, and it was like one of the, I was like, just sit down, I had an afternoon, watch The Shining, right? It's a good film. Everybody says it's a great film, right? So I sat down, I watched it, and I was just, the soundtrack for it was like
amazing,
so cool. Some really dark moogs, organs and everything. But I also like the fact that it was also harking back to like the 30s and 40s, so that sort of, those sort of what I would call antique-y sounding strings. So yeah, that just, I when I went to Jacob and said, I've got the tracks for the next EP should we get recorded? He's going, yeah, what sort of soundscape are you looking at? I was like, oh. So I sent him the theme tune to The Shining, and then I sent him this 1930s thing. He was like, you're insane. What are you talking about? I goes, these two things don't do together. But once we got in the studio and started doing it, he was like, I get it now. This is really cool. And then we ran away with it. And there's nothing more fun, I've realised, than when we got live strings in, it was like, it just elevated everything.
Live strings just make everything so special, don't they? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about getting Overlook out there because, as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of stuff I have on Spotify which kind of muddies the water about what music I do. Sorry, so because I was really into a guy called Bon Iver for a while, so I was very like Americana-y and very guitar based, and I've kind of drifted away from that. He's amazing though. But what I've,
side note,
nothing to do with you, man.
no, he's really good. You should check him out. But I think what I've been doing recently is like when I'm in the creative process, I've stopped listening to music, which might sound weird.
Yeah, but, I actually really get that.
Yeah. So I stay in my own headspace, and then I know that I'm not just going in there going, this sounds exactly like that Bon Iver track or whatever, you know, because it'll be in there. So at least that's the method behind it. Hopefully it'll be successful. But I'm really proud of Overlook. It seems it's tabula rasa to Overlook, and now Days Collection when that comes out later. I can see the journey, and each step seems to be getting a lot better, in my opinion. Anyway.
Speaking of data collection, is there any insights to what we can expect to that?
Oh, it's really cool because I've only ever done EPs, and then I just thought, you know what, I've got like all these songs. Let's do an album. And what's really cool about it is they're all very, very different songs, but they all kind of sit together in the same sort of family. When I've listened to it, it's still in its infancy, but it's again there's a lot of synthesizers in there. This one of the songs I'm going to do later, called Thorn.
So we get a bit of a sneak peek, do we?
You do, but it sounds nothing like the album version. The album version is almost like a heavy rock song with keyboards instead of guitars.
Right.
It's and I don't know where that came from, but you know, it's one of those moments in the studio you're like, oh, that sounds great, and then we just ran away with it. So it sounds great. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Oh,
that's cool.
Well, we're excited to hear it.
Yeah.
So it's time for your live track number 2. What have we got today?
It's going to be Zoku, which is it's a song I wrote in Amsterdam. It's the name of the hotel that we were staying in, actually.
That's a cool hotel name.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. Cool. All right, then. Let's jump into that. Thank you very much.
Lovely stuff.
Well, she said she knew me, but things got in the way, and it's not up to me these days. And in between the sheets on those summer days, I never thought I'd leave, never thought she'd stay. Anyway, I hope she's doing better, better. These days, hard to do, but it's hard to negate. And I feel like such a fool these days. Gave her the month of June, but she's still running late. I guess that's beside the point anyway. I hope she's doing better, better, better. These days.
So we're coming towards the end of the podcast now, but just before we do, we're going to hit you with some quick fire questions.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So you mentioned that you started learning guitar with 3 strings.
Yeah.
Could you pick a new unconventional instrument to if you could pick a new unconventional instrument to master, what would it be?
Oh, unconventional.
The spoons.
Yeah, the spoons. Maybe the washboard. That would be quite
washboard.
fun. Yeah.
I like that. Vinyl, cassette, or streaming? What's your go-to for listening to music?
It's got to be vinyl. Not that I have a record player, but there's something nice about a record. It's big and you get that little crackle.
Yeah, the little crackle.
It just makes
the one,
it.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
without a doubt. And that's what I used to listen to everything on vinyl when I was young. You know?
I love the feel of it. Like you were saying, I just love to.
Yeah, you're the same, Adam, aren't you?
I need to hold it.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about this and how because if Spotify blows up tomorrow, right, I have no music to listen to, so I'm going to go back out and just re-buy my music collection, which unfortunately got lost throughout the years or sold by somebody who we won't mention. So I want to build that up again and have a proper stereo again with 2 speakers and
Yeah. What's the best thing you've ever bought for under £10?
Oh. Probably the Beta Band. Do you remember the EP that they did? I think it was called the 4-track EP or something like that.
No.
They featured it on. I mean, I have the worst memory, by the way, but there was the film with John Cusack that's set in the record shop. It was a really big book years ago.
Yeah, I don't think
High
I have
Fidelity.
heard that though.
High Fidelity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a Beta Band song that they used on that, which I also can't remember the name of, which I'm really terrible about. Terrible. I'm always like, yeah, you know that song? I'm like, no.
And that can sing every lyric, but no idea what it's called.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell you a strange story about where I saw it once on a shelf.
Yeah.
I can't say what it's called.
Exactly. Yeah. But that was probably the best thing I've ever bought for £10.
What's one thing that your fans would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, gosh.
You don't have to be too personal.
No, I was just trying to think. Yeah, I won't say that. Hopefully that I'm 50. Maybe that would be. Some people
I'm surprised.
Some people seem to be surprised by my age. I'm definitely not surprised by it. 'Cause I feel it. Everything just aches that little bit more.
That's why you sit down at gigs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The osteoporosis is just kicking in. Yeah. Yeah, probably that. I don't. People seem to be surprised by my age, but the hair's going grey now, so it's going to get a little bit more obvious, I think.
Well, not if you keep wearing the hat.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Forever and
to get the
ever.
skin fade on, so it's just like above the hat line.
That's right then. So, where can people find your music?
Well,
you got website?
I have got a website, yeah, and I've put everything on there. Eventually, I get told off all the time because I'm constantly changing the website shapes of buttons and stuff. It becomes a little bit of an obsession for me, but yeah, it's all on there. It's all on Bandcamp as well. There's probably stuff on the website and on Bandcamp that isn't anywhere else actually. So some of the stuff that I was talking about that I haven't released. So if
little treats, Bandcamp treats.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so
We'll
please,
pop all the links to that in the
amazing,
description.
Thanks. It's mackmusic.com as well. There you go.
Easy
So,
peasy.
yeah.
One word, Makk Music.
Yes. Yeah. Double
Awesome.
K.
Double K. Well, thank you so much for coming over and
it's a
gracing
pleasure.
us with some
Yeah,
beautiful
thank you.
music and your company. That kind of wraps up another episode of Indie Tea Talk. Thanks again for everyone that's joined us. Remember, you can follow Makk on his Insta, Makk David Music, or Dav, MAKKDAV Music. Follow us on Instagram on Indie Tea Talk _, and please give us a subscribe on YouTube as well. And until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.